Bada bing, bada boom, guys. What's up? My name is Central, and this is gonna be Let's Collab Progressive House. So I made the episode and I fucked up again. And there's another fail. My voice was cutting in and out of the recording because my mic wasn't loud enough, and I do have a gate on the microphone so that you guys don't hear like this nasty ass, white noise and whatnot. So there we have it. So in the episode, what we did is we set it up for mastering. Now, as we went along in the series, we did a couple of mixing, if you guys didn't notice. And what that means is mixing is pretty much the art of making sure everything goes well together. Everything's, you can hear every little detail of a track. Mastering phase is going to be where, you make the track loud. But some people go as far to say that a person with fresh ears has to master it because you've been hearing the track over and over again and you got used to it. So it'll be hard for you to pick out little problems in it. So the mastering phase is also meant to solve any last minute problems before it gets boosted, before it gets wrecked it. And I am wearing gloves because it's really cold outside. So let me go a bit over what you guys need to do in order to get a perfect mix for this episode, and then the next episode we'll do mastering. So straight off the bat, what we do is you want to make sure your kick is in mono. The main reason for this is because you don't want a wide kick. You don't want a kick with that much stereo to it. I mean, because you want your kick in the center, you want your bass in the center, and everything else is going to be around that. So the position that we want, the room we want to give our kick and bass, because you have to give everything its space. Our kick and bass are in the center of the room, in the center of the mix. Next thing we did is we are gonna actually do some mixing because I haven't done it to here. Next thing we did, as you guys know, in a couple of the series back, we did apply some EQ, some distortion, some tube saturation, and so forth to make our bass sound bigger. One of the things we did is, since our bass, we have a sub and we have a bass, what we did is we put the sub of the bass, just the sub, into mono, and then whatever's on top of the bass, we widen it. Now, the reason for that is because our first drop, we have it so that it's just a kick and a bass, and you can even consider the top layer of the bass as leads. So if you guys hear it. And there we have it. So what we did is, since the top layer of the bass has no low end to it, we are allowed to widen it. That's one of the main reasons why I feel it's very important that when you make a bass, you have layers for it and you separate the sub layer away from everything else so you can process the top layer of your basses like this. Especially with, like, the groovy house, which is what we were trying to go for here. And some of you guys may say it sounds good, others say it sucks, whatever. That's subjective. But in order to make the bass sound big, one thing we can agree on is that if you are not having any other leads, you can make the top layer of the bass wide so that when it hits, it sounds harder and there's more, more field being covered. So that's the main reason why we did that here. We put an S1 imager from Waves to do that. Now, our sub, we made sure it's in mono as well because it's in the low frequency. Now, another thing we did is we compressed the chords here because the chords had a lot of dynamics to it. And if you don't understand what dynamics are, just picture me talking. And if my voice has a lot of dynamics, that means my voice is like, hey, what's up, guys? This is Sandworld speaking, and how am I gonna help you today? And then I'm okay, guys. So my voice changes volumes up and down a lot. So compression will help clear that, make sure that everything's at a right level so it sounds strong throughout the whole thing, not just, at that certain point. And it helps control things that have really big transients that are sometimes kind of like fuck, because the average volume of your chords will be around, let's say 6, which is around here, but then the damn transient will be spiking all the way up here or something. So use a compressor to control that kind of stuff, or you can use a transient. But it's up to you which transient designer, and it's up to you guys to choose which one works best for you. Okay, so also one thing we did is, if you guys have been following the series, you know that we have a progressive drop here, and you guys can debate if it's progressive or not, all you want, but it's progressive. And we duplicated that bass that we had in the first drop because in the first drop we don't have any leads, but in the second drop we have leads and everything. So for the melodic bass in the second drop, which is the same bass from the first drop, it's just playing the bottom note of, what's the chords. We didn't widen those. In fact, the ideal thing to do would be to put them in mono or reduce their stereo a little bit so that the leads could shine. So, in the previous series episodes, I made the progressive lead for the drop, and I widened it as well with an S1. And this lead is only going to be present in the breakdown and in the second drop. Now, mixing and mastering all to itself, I can be telling you guys, I'm doing this is what happens when you compress, but in reality, it's all up to practice. Mastering and mixing is like making music, and think of it as mixing and mastering as a creative side. It has a creative side to it as well, because you can go many different ways with it. Okay, now the other important thing about mixing a track is making sure that everything, before you send out to mastering, that everything is below a certain key. You want to give yourself enough headroom. You don't want to have 0 dB, your whole track peaking at 0 dB, because then when you go into the mastering phase, you really have no room to work with. And what you do in mastering is pretty much you fatten things up, you EQ stuff, you make things come out more. And when you do certain things, the volume tends to keep going up and up. So it's not just slapping a limiter on the master and going fuck that and boost the shit out of it, because that's what a lot of people and you guys do in reality, because they say, oh, well, it makes it loud. Isn't that what mastering is? And no, mastering isn't that. It's you're trying to make the finished product sound even way better than what the initial product was, and you're trying to just fine touch it. It's like you're polishing your car. It has nice paint already, but it's dirty, so you got to polish it. So what we want to do is we want to make sure everything is heard and it sounds good, but at 6 dB, negative 6 dB. So ours is at negative 6 dB, hopefully. So let's check it out. So, as you guys saw, I'm sticking around the 6 dB range. It's okay if it goes over. You're just trying to stay around there. And once you have that, then it's ready to go out for mastering. Now, the key thing here is making sure that you can hear every little element in it. I mean, you don't have to hear the snare like, oh, there's a fucking snare, but at least so that a snare is audible and it doesn't sound like it's fighting with something else. So if you guys notice here in our drop, you can hear every element in that drop. And again, one of the tips I'm going to give you guys before I let you guys go, because this is a very short video. I did a lot of the mixing in the previous episode, so I suggest if you guys haven't watched them, to watch them, even if they're kind of boring. But one of the things with mixing is, fuck, I forgot what I was going to say, is that you don't want to use that many elements. I mean, I know many of you guys have probably seen like big DJs with, they shut their project up and it's like 120 tracks and you're like, what the fuck? And in reality, it's stupid, because what a lot of these guys do, and I'm not trying to be like, bag on it or anything, is that they tend to, like, let's say you're running a snare loop, a tom loop, and in that tom loop, you have hi-hats, you have like hi-hat, and stuff. Well, what they do is, a lot of the times sometimes they make their own loops and stuff. They make a fucking channel for every little thing. So if you have like a riser channel, well, those fuckers probably have like 3 riser channels for each little riser. And to me, it's just, like, okay, that's too much already. And it's just a waste of space when you can just group them or something, so don't feel intimidated because your project is like, ours is like 43, and the Ansolo project he showed us is like, Ansolo showed a project, it was like 105, but when you hear both songs right next to each other, they have pretty much the same elements. So that's another tip. Don't think just because there's more it's gonna be better. The less is better, because one, it will sound cleaner. You'll be able to make it as louder than they can. And in general, if you don't need it, if you're not gonna hear it in the mix, then it's not necessary. Alright guys, so hopefully this is helpful to you guys. I know I talked a lot, but that was the purpose of this video. This is for the mixing section. Last thing we're gonna do in the next episode is master this fucker, and we're gonna be done. Now guys, before I let you guys go, as you guys know, we do have that Future House Bank out. I lowered the price on Silent One Revolution, so it's now $10. If you guys want to support it, if not, it's cool. You don't really need it. I mean, it's amazing sounds. I probably used all of them in this video, but reality, if you can make them yourself, that's even better. I'm also going to be starting a mixing and mastering service soon, where I pretty much mix and master the tracks for you guys, or just master or mix depending on what you guys want. And just be on lookout for that. I am doing some free services for a few of my friends so I can have comparison tracks for you guys to hear my work. Anyways, guys, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next time. Gloves if you're outside in the studio and it's really cold.